All right, everybody, we are live. This is episode 82 of the Productivity Academy Weekly Q&A. I've got some good stuff we're going to be going over today, talking about how to focus, among a couple other of topics, as well if we have time. And then, of course, anyone who's watching live, feel free to ask questions. Again, I can't guarantee I'll get to them, but as time allows, we'll definitely go through that. So, first of all, if you're watching live, thanks for checking it out. Secondly, if you're watching the replay, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or on the website, you can always join the Real World Productivity Group, and you can find the link down below to hop into that. You do have to answer a couple questions. Want to make sure you're actually interested in productivity, time management, team building, all that sort of good stuff. If you're checking it out on YouTube, you can also click subscribe, stay up to date with these weekly Q&As as well as other videos I put out, whether it's app reviews, other reviews like books, and updates and how-tos, things like that. So if that's up your alley, go ahead and do that. All right, let's get into it. Today, like I said, I wanted to talk about how to focus. I think this is it's a hugely important topic. And two, it was something that a couple of people have been talking about in the Real World Productivity Facebook group. And it's something that comes up in questions as well. It wasn't just that, but there was a good conversation about that, so I wanted to touch base on that. So let me move some things around here, and we will get started on this. All right. Go over here. This is the fun part where you get to watch me figure out how to do this. Okay, so as far as how to focus, there's a lot of different methods, and what I will say as a disclaimer for this is that it's what works for you. But what I've got are what I believe to be some guidelines that are generally true for most people, and you need to take what I say and make sure that it works for you. And that's one of the last things that I'm going to talk about, so keep this in mind, is that, do one of these things, learn from what I'm telling you, but then understand that you have to iterate it and make it work for yourself. And if you're not looking back and looking at your own results, then you're missing a big part of this. Okay, so first of all, what are some of the symptoms of if you're not able to focus? You're wondering where to start. Maybe you feel like I'm spending all my time just looking at all this stuff around me. My task list is like 100 things long. I don't know what I should be doing. Okay, that's definitely one of the symptoms of loss of focus. Another one is having to look at each thing and saying it's got to be 100% done, or it's got to be perfect, or I can't do it at all. Okay. That's going to totally distract you and not help you, but make you eventually lose your focus. The third major one is going to be no time to plan. Okay, I hear this a lot. People say, well, this is neat. You've got productivity strategies, you've got tactics, you've got these methods, but I don't have the time to do any of that. Okay, so if you find yourself saying any of these things, just know you're in good company. These are frequently heard issues with focus, as well as productivity in general, and you're certainly not alone. But while those are the symptoms, what I want to talk about are the underlying issues, underlying each of those, and then what you could do to get around or overcome those obstacles and those issues. Okay, so in the first one we said you're wondering where to start. Okay, and this one to me has a somewhat simple, although the devil's always in the details, solution to this. If you're wondering where to start, then to me that says that you're not truly prioritizing, and this is something you probably need to put some more time into. And we're going to come around to the third one being not enough time, so stick with me. But if you're not correctly prioritizing, and this is part of my daily review, it's what I talk about in the foundation, it's what we talked about in the 14-day challenge. This is a big part of it. You get in your sticky notes, you get in your Todoist, your Evernote, your best self journal, your pen and paper, whatever it is. But you get all those things into one place, and then you have to spend the time prioritizing. And it could just be that we're spending maybe too much time on collecting everything, and then we just get started. And you need to build that habit of saying, okay, I've got everything, that's great, but now I need to prioritize and put that into my calendar and say, hey, I can only actually do these 4 things. Are these truly the 4 most important things I need to do? Because I have 20 things on my list, and I know that I can't get them all done. So what needs to actually happen? And then, like I mentioned earlier, part of this process is just doing it, because you're going to get better over time. Some of these are tough, I'm not going to lie. You have 20 things and you can only do 4. You may not know right away what is the most urgent or important, right? You don't necessarily want to do the urgent. You want to do the things that move the needle, whether that's, being helpful to your friends and family, whether it's a business project, whatever that is. So that's something you kind of need to define, but you'll never get better at it if you don't go back and say, okay, in the last week, what I did was, X, Y, and Z. I laid out, I took 10 or 15 minutes to prioritize. Did that actually work for me? And if it didn't, why not? And if it did, oh, okay, great. Well, let's keep doing it. And how can I make it better? All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, secondly, we were talking about, having to be 100% complete. And, kind of the idea that, things have to be perfectly done, or, they're not going to be done at all. And for this, the world is kind of an 80-20, right? The Pareto rule. The results will speak for themselves. Almost nothing can be done 100%, and a lot of projects, tasks, whatever it is, you're going to see much more diminishing results if you continually try to push for 100%. And don't take this as, don't do a good job, don't complete a project. It's nothing like that. But a lot of times we need to move the ball 80% of the way there, and then we can hand it off. Maybe there's something we can shortcut to get the rest of the way, delegate it, whatever it is. But also it's realizing that people are waiting or want your results, okay? And this is really important in the business sense as well as a personal. If I had waited for perfect, I never would have started recording or putting out these live streams. I never would have created a Facebook group, all right? And I didn't know exactly how to do it, and I still don't. We have technical issues. Sometimes things get cut short. And if I waited for it to be perfect, though, I wouldn't be able to help anyone, and I would never get any feedback. And so it's that line between, okay, I just need to be comfortable, put myself out there, and get some feedback, and realize, okay, I'm going to do the best that I can, and over time, I'm going to continue to get better and better. And, whatever that is, maybe it's writing an article. It could be putting together a book. If you've never done any of these things, it can be a little scary, like building a website, but you learn by doing. Either that, or you go out and get an expert to do it for you, right? There's all these options, but either way, you have to take that first step. So I would just say that, understand the 80-20 rule applies in a lot of areas, and that we're aiming high, but you can't wait until you're 100% done, right? People wanted to join my Facebook group. People ask questions, and I answer them here. And if I waited until I had the exact perfect setup and I had the structure all right, then I wouldn't, be able to do that well, or I wouldn't have been able to do it for the last 2 years, and I'd be waiting until some undefinable point in the future. Let me see. Melissa says hello. So yes, Melissa, you are here. Hey, how's it going? I'm going to hop back over. I've got this up on a side screen so that I don't stare at myself like talking. It gets very weird to watch that while I'm trying to talk. Okay, so let's see. The underlying issues for no time to plan. This one's an interesting one. If you think that you have no time to do something, then, and this is from personal experience as well as other people and observing people around me, then generally you don't believe that it's actually going to work. Otherwise you do it, right? So if I thought, I don't have any time to work out, well, it's because I don't really believe in the results. Because I could say, well, working out is healthy and I'd like to look better and this, that, and the other thing, but I don't believe that either I can get those results or what I'm going to do isn't truly like the best path forward for me to do that. And one of those is it's a kind of a dangerous loop to get into, and we're going to go into how you can get around that one. Because it's not just that, you think that, there's a problem and it won't work and that's the end of the story. It certainly isn't. But a lot of times if we said, hey, I've got this problem, and somebody comes up and says, well, hey, just do these 3 things and, it's going to work. And we would say, okay, well, let's just go do it, right? I mean, if we're guaranteed the result, then why wouldn't we? But a lot of times we've never seen the results we want, so we shy away from it. Maybe we've tried planners in the terms of productivity. We've tried journals, we tried different methods, and for us, it didn't give us the results we want, or we weren't even clear maybe on what results we expected. We just were told like, oh, it's going to make you more productive, which isn't really a thing. So that can be a problem in and of itself. Okay, so just to recap, we've talked about 3 underlying issues for focus. Okay, not prioritizing, expecting perfection or 100% completion. The world is 80-20, right? You've got to get started and get some sort of action while also planning and trying to put out good results out there and then iterating over time and becoming better. And then last but not least, with no time to plan, it's kind of telling yourself you don't really believe in the process because otherwise you would do it because you think it's going to get you the results that you want. Let's see. All right, grab some water real quick. Oh, man. All right, solutions. Okay, I think that this is also really important for going over because we've talked about the symptoms, we've talked about the underlying issues, and hopefully you can identify with some of these. I know I can literally personally identify with these, but one of the most obvious solutions to me, and not to minimize the effort that goes into this, but it's to prioritize. And that's why I do this first thing in my day when I'm doing my planning, is we talk about, collecting all of our stuff in, our to-dos, all of that, wherever it's coming from. And one of the things you need to do is prioritize and batch tasks. But let's just talk about prioritizing. Because this is something that, maybe it's not being given the appropriate amount of time. It can take a long time to be like, oh, what's truly important today? Me personally, I also have a lot of tasks. I've got people pinging me on Slack. Occasionally I get some phone calls. I've got emails. I've got these other things coming in. And I just need to ask myself, what's truly important? Is an email, is someone else dictating my time important? And the answer is no, it's not. Not saying that the information in that email isn't important, but I have to go through and say, okay, in my goals and what the results I want, what is the most important? And, that's something you have to do for yourself. And again, over time, you get better and better about realizing what it is that you need to do. So that is as far as not prioritizing it. I know that it sounds overly simple, but it's one of those where you just sit down and you get used to this practice of prioritizing. And you make it part of your daily review. All right, so as far as expecting perfection or nothing, just looking at my notes here, I had some thoughts about this yesterday. I think it's important, and I find that a lot of times with expecting perfection or waiting until you have 100% completion is that you're not really realizing that someone, even yourself, and needs what you can do. So I use the example of me setting up this Facebook group. I'm not some sort of social media wizard. I certainly didn't know 100% of what I was doing. I did the best I could. I found some good examples and I did it. And then over time, iterating on that and saying, oh, well, I could stream a video into here. Wouldn't that be nice? Or asking people questions. What's going on? What's your problems? How have you solved these issues? And realizing that, oh, people are responding, and it is nice that, I'm able to help them. Whereas if I had waited, that this actually wouldn't be happen. Until you get that out there. Again, this could be a Facebook group, it could be writing an article, it could be a project at work, it could be a relationship. But until that point that you take action, you are your own worst enemy and critic, and that's the voice you're hearing. Okay, so once you start taking action and you get something out there, you start getting real feedback, because generally anything you're doing, again, whether it's work-related, it's a personal issue, exercise, whatever it is, until you start taking action, again, you're just listening to that voice inside your head, which is always your own worst critic, right? And sometimes your own worst enemy. And we just need to realize that, oh, okay, well, I actually want to do something, so I get feedback from other people that are helpful because I'm probably trying to interact with other people or do something for other people, and that's the feedback I need, not the little voice inside my head. Yeah, Melissa says it's gotta be perfect. May as well not even do it. And all I can say is that, if you believe that, I think that, you've got to take a step back and realize how often are things perfect. I use a lot of products, I've used a lot of services, and they're not perfect, but they're trying very hard to solve a problem, solve an issue, or provide a service, and over time they're getting better. They can't know exactly what I want. This is a good case for people who do maybe software as a service, and I log in, you use it, and they ask for feedback because they can't make it perfect. And they understand that, and they said, hey, here's what we offer. If this is worth it to you, you'll pay for this service, and over time we're going to iterate and take your feedback and get that going. And so I try to apply that idea to a lot of areas, whether it's writing, taking action on a new project. Just you go out, and over time you get better at this because you start to understand, what do I need to make this good? And then the last step is I actually needed to get it out there and get feedback so that I can make it great. I'll get back to you, Melissa. Melissa's got some good comments about this stuff. And then last but not least, okay, so we talked about one of the symptoms being no time to plan, and the underlying issue there being that you think it won't work. Otherwise you'd probably be doing it. So I implore anyone who feels this way to try planning or doing your daily review for the very first thing for 6 days. All right, not even a week. Just try it for 6 days. And do it first thing, okay? You can do it while you're getting coffee, but don't do it, don't wait. Don't get your coffee and then do it. Don't putz around the house and then do it. Do it in the same place. Sit down at your desk, sit down at the coffee table, excuse me, and just use the same method. I've talked about this a lot before, where you can do this with Best Self Journal, a piece of paper, Evernote, but whatever it is, you're just trying to build that habit for 6 days. So when you get up and get started in the morning, sit down and do this first thing. And like I said, the simple way, just gather in all your to-dos, look over your calendar, whatever it is you need to do, and then prioritize, okay? And look through there, and then you're just going to do this for 6 days. That's it, 15 to 30 minutes. And then on day 7, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down how it has helped you, okay? Did it improve anything? Did it actually hurt anything? And then, if you can, if you're watching this, come back to the Productivity Academy, either the Real World Productivity Group, Facebook page, whatever it is, and let me know how that worked. Let us know, let everyone know what improved. Was there something that didn't work out? And what are you going to do to get over that? And if it did improve, are you going to keep with it? Is there something you can iterate on and get better about? And so share with us, let us know, because in my mind, that is the really important part of this. You can have this great habit, but if you have no way to improve it over time, then yeah, definitely you're either going to stall or, it's not going to work for you and you're just going to stop doing it, which is also unfortunate. So 6 days, do a review in the morning, gather all your tasks, get your appointments, get all that stuff together, prioritize, list out what you're going to do for the day, go for it, okay, and do that for 6 days. Set a reminder for yourself to get it done, and then on day 7, just sit down, grab a Post-it, grab the same thing you were using to plan, and just answer these questions. What worked well, and how can I get more of it? What didn't work well, and how can I either get rid of that or, reduce it from happening? So, and then come back and share. Want to know whether it's good or bad. So either way, let us know for sure. All right, so gonna hop over here. Melissa's got several comments here. Melissa, okay, this is a good one too. So we've been moving around for 10 years, living out of boxes and Walmart bags. We're finally having our house built and have 10 years of stuff to go through. Okay, I feel your pain. Having moved several times over the last few years, I feel your pain in decreasing amounts, because every time we've moved, we've gotten rid of stuff, which has been awesome. That's something I personally enjoyed doing. Went on kind of not a minimalism kick, but, looking at, and actually reading several books like 7 or 8 years ago, about how things end up having this really high overhead, just not in the sense of like, oh, this room is full, or I need a bigger house, or I need a storage unit, but also mentally, just having that stuff. So that's been really helpful for us. Moving was a great time to get rid of stuff, but I also understand from moving and having to go through everything, and I think this is a great chance to put to work something called Eat That Frog or Eat the Frog. And it's just that idea, I forget who coined that term, I apologize, it certainly wasn't me, but the idea is maybe you have like one box per day that you go through, and your goal is to go through the box and you're going to decide everything in the box down to the last thing, and the box itself maybe is like things you're going to keep and where are you going to keep them, and things you're going to get rid of and how are you going to get rid of them, and you just do that. Or maybe it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing, but you set yourself that schedule and you don't make it, I'm going to go through a room today, or, I'm going to do it all on the weekend, which ends up being a huge task and probably won't happen. But doing one small thing, but just doing it every single day and making that the first thing you do. And I think this kind of ties back to what we're talking about as far as doing the daily review every day. A lot of times I hear people saying, I don't have time to do these things. And it's like, no, you make time for the things you really want to do. And once you start to see good results, you'll naturally start moving things around to do them. So for myself, I realized, if there's a job, there's a business, whatever in the way, it can be tough. But maybe you could go through like one box in the morning and then move on to other things. And as you start to see the pile of stuff diminishing, I think that can be its own motivator. I know for myself that's been helpful. Let's see. Melissa says, my trick is creating a fantastic list with a killer title. It looks cool. Amaze myself. Then I file it away somewhere that makes sense to me at the time. Then I forget where I put it. All right. Well, I'm guessing either is that for moving or is that for your to-do list? So, I mean, if it's your to-do list, yeah, you definitely need to keep, your to-do list and things like that in front of you. I will literally put sticky notes sometimes with, when I'm changing, I guess, my schedule or changing my, process for my daily review. I'll write a sticky note and put it on my monitor right here just to remind myself, even though I also have it in my journal. That's the way I am, and I think a lot of people are. We underestimate how hard it can be, and we need to keep things right in front of ourselves sometimes. All right, got a few more minutes. Let's see. And Melissa said we just amassed more things. If you want, ping me in the group, and I've got some suggestions if you're interested. I did some reading on this because I was a few years ago looking for the same type of help in terms of, how can I either not necessarily avoiding purchases, but I want to have things that I want. I don't like waking up and being like, wow, over the past couple months, we just got a bunch of stuff. Like, I don't, why have it? So if that's kind of what you're feeling and you're looking for some ideas on that, I can definitely point you in the right direction there. So. All right, let's take a look and see if we've got anything else. I'll grab some water real quick. Okay, a quick question I had seen on the website was, how do you remain productive throughout the day? Okay, this is kind of a broad question, but it is one that I think is good. And I think that there's a few kind of big things that you can look at to kind of use the 80-20 rule here that'll get you the most leverage right away. And one of those is knowing when you're the most effective. I think most people have a general idea, but that may not do as good a job of blocking stuff out. So if you're effective, or once you've had your coffee, you've gone for a walk, and you've gotten some admin, your emails, you don't have to think about that. So maybe by 9:30 in the morning, you're really effective. Until you start getting hungry, and that's around 1, well then, say, hey, from 9:30 to 1 is a really important time. I should definitely try to block out meetings. I should try to get calls rerouted. I should not open my email. I should really protect that time. I think that's one good way to do it, is that you're maximizing the time that you are effective and productive, so that you get a lot done there. I think a lot of people in 2 to 4 hours can get more done when they're really focused than 8 hours of just mediocre kind of interrupted work. The other thing is taking breaks, even within that time, depending on how you like to do it. Maybe you do the Pomodoro technique and work for 25 minutes and take a break for 5, or work for 45 and take a break for 15. But also remembering then to do that throughout the rest of the day, so that you don't get to 4 o'clock and have eye strain and just exhausted, and this is something I definitely work on, and I'm sure it'll be it's one of those lifelong things, but just getting better about maybe set a timer, continuing to do the Pomodoro technique throughout the afternoon, or just setting some times that, hey, every day at 2 o'clock I go for a 15-minute walk, especially if you work at computers or sitting down all day, get a little bit of exercise, give your eye and brain a little bit of relief, and you kind of schedule these throughout the day. So, in my mind, the goal isn't to get done with the day and just be exhausted, right? It's it's super productive, but now I'm just going to crash and burn. I want to get done with the day and feel as good as I can and go on and do other things, whether it's go outside, go on some activity, go out to dinner, whatever it is. And then last but not least, I will just say iterate. Maybe you're trying some deep work techniques. Maybe you're trying Pomodoro. You're trying some different break times. Set a reminder maybe once every few weeks. Ask yourself, is this working? What's made me feel the best? What days have I been the most productive? And, why was that? And do a little digging. This could only really take up 10 or 15 minutes, but this is going to help you in the long run continue to get better and better and better. All right. Okay, so I'll answer this or talk to this one last point, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. Says I can stare at all the things I need to do for hours. And I would just say then just stop doing it, right? This is one of those where a lot of times we have to break out of the mold, and if we keep doing the same things and expecting different results, then, so I forget what the quote is, but like that's the definition of insanity. And not to say anyone's insane or crazy or anything like that, but a lot of times we have to remind ourselves, okay, I keep doing the same things over and I'm not getting the changes I want, so therefore I just need to try something different. And a lot of times, that's uncomfortable. It's getting out of the comfort zone, but just saying, what, today I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. I'm going to do the best I can to prioritize, maybe write little notes about what I think is important or highlight the 10 things I think are most important and then cut them in half. And then I'm going to just try it, and I'm going to do those things, and I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to look around and see, did the world explode? Something like that. And be like, no, of course it didn't. I'm not saying that nothing bad can happen. You need to stay on top of your tasks and your responsibilities. But a lot of times we do need to take that step back and say, let's try something different. What happened that was good, what happened that was bad, and then move forward from there. So, thanks for watching, whether you're watching live, whether you're checking out the replay. This is going to do it for episode 82 of the weekly Q&A. Thanks for watching. If you are checking out the replay and you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button, or you can also find below the link to come join us in the Real World Productivity group. That'll do it for this week. I will see everyone next week.